Hi, my peeps, and welcome back to the channel where we find out what kind of dumb stuff the young earthers have to say about their world view today. And we're gonna go back to Eric Hovind. I just love him. So, my last few videos on Eric, before I took a break from Eric and went on to Answers in Genesis and Genesis Apologetics, was about the flood. Because, come on, we all like their excuses about how a mythical worldwide flood was possible 4,400 years ago, even though science literate people know there's no fucking way to have a global flood. But, make fun of it. And hey, throw in some education while you're at it, because, these people need all the goddamn help they can find, and they really don't have much education. So, I'll help you out. At any rate, I'll do my shilling because, come on, that's part of my job. And then, little Eric, you can take it away and spew all the nonsense that you want so I can tear it apart. And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed, because for some reason, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
Really, they didn't believe there was grass until 2005. In India, they found dinosaur dung from long-necked dinosaurs, sauropod dinosaurs, just like the behemoth most likely was.
Yeah.
They had 5 species of grass in it.
Wow.
So just like you can find your horse droppings, you can see what they ate. Grass doesn't fossilize well on its own, but if it's in dung, it fossilized really well. So they really were eating grass, and that's exactly what the Bible said all along. The Bible.
Okay, so I had to go high and low looking for this claim. And I did find it. There is a paper in 2001 that states that dinosaurs did not graze on grass. However, that paper is ancient. I do have to hand it to you, though, because this claim is not totally based on a lie, unlike most of your claims. I don't know when this was made. However, in 2005, we did find that grasses evolved. In the late Cretaceous era, right now that stands as early as 66 million years ago. And you ought to know that's a million years before the dinosaurs went extinct, according to science, and not this fairy tale that you made up in your head. And yes, you did make it up in your head because the Bible does not say how old the earth is. That's a sticking point in my craw. So, let's review, shall we? So, we now know in 2022 And we have known since 2005 that grasses are as old as 66 million years, and science may push that back. So update your knowledge. So, since this claim is based on a premise that we now know to be false, because science updates when the evidence updates and you don't, we already know that, I'm not going to spend any more time on this dumb claim.
Now, the scoffers out there will say, "Oh, Tim, no, they didn't move fast. John Baumgartner is wrong," but his math has never been shown to be wrong. Everything he did, his computer models show that's what would happen. You would have rapid subduction, rapid plate movement.
Well, he's fairly intelligent. He's full of shit.
Gotta hand it to you. I never heard of John Baumgartner, so I'm gonna have to look him up. However, plate tectonics grew out of a theory first proposed in 1912 when a scientist figured out that South America fit Africa. Now, a fully fleshed out theory of plate tectonics did not happen till the 60s and 70s, and you might wonder why. Well, it's because we, unlike you, don't make shit up just because we're spoiled little brats who want the answer now. We have to have proof, which means years and years and years of careful observation, analysis, and experiment. So the next clip talks about plate tectonics, so I'm going to save my spiel of plate tectonics till then, but I just wanted to say that because I'm going into John Baumgartner and then plate tectonics. Let's go.
But miles below our feet, it's a raging inferno. The deeper you go, the hotter it gets. Earth's center, or core, is as scorching as the surface of the sun. All that energy wants to escape, like steam inside a boiling kettle. It pushes outward, putting immense pressure on the middle section of the mantle. Standing in its way is the lithosphere, a rigid layer of solid rock. Well, the lithosphere isn't like a smooth shell. It's cracked into pieces, each one a different shape, size, and thickness. We call those pieces plates. Yep, the mid-Atlantic ridge is the border between several plates. They're being dragged apart by forces from deep inside the planet.
So I couldn't find if John Baumgartner with a D has a legitimate degree or not. My feeling is yes, he does, because they say he works at Los Alamos National Laboratory, but I'm not sure because they, and when I say they, I mean the only sites I could find this on was creation sites and Wikipedia. They say that he was an electrical engineer and he wrote a program called Terra, Terra, which is Latin for Earth. And you might want to say, well, how is this impressive? It's impressive because John Baumgartner also has a PhD in geophysics, although I couldn't find whether his PhD in geophysics is legitimate or not. He is a professor at Liberty University, at least from what I found, so my guess is probably not. Anyway, John, buddy, you're probably not listening to this, but if you are, if I made a mistake and you actually do have a legitimate degree in geophysics, fine, just get in contact with me and I will correct the mistake.
The idea that our planet's continents drift around the globe, periodically glomming together and breaking apart, is at least 200 years old. But most geologists didn't believe it until the 1960s, when mounting evidence made it clear that the Earth's crust is broken up into fragments, and that those fragments, called tectonic plates, are moving. And these days we directly track that motion, with millimeter precision, from space. The common simplified explanation for why tectonic plates are moving is that they're carried along on currents in the upper mantle, the slowly flowing layer of rock just below Earth's crust. Converging currents drive plates into each other, diverging currents pull them apart. This is mostly true. Hot mantle rock rises from the core and moves along under the crust until it grows cool and heavy and sinks back down again. But the plate
And that seems to be the mechanism that God used to bring on the flood. It pushes up the seafloor from below by making new hot crust. Pushes up from below. The more crust you make, the more ocean crust you make, the more it pushed up from below. So the tsunami waves generated by all these earthquakes kept going higher and higher and higher. More ocean crust, higher. More ocean crust, higher. Eventually it went over the top on day 150. And then
I can't make hide nor hair what he's saying. If you can, please leave it down in the comments, but I'm going to try my best. What I think he's saying is that the rain came down so torrentially that it had the oceanic crust split apart so rapidly everywhere, not just at the mid-Atlantic ridges, which is the only way this can happen, but everywhere, that the magma welled up and built up to the point where it built all the mountains. I mean, that's as intelligent as I know how to make it. I mean, maybe you're saying something totally different, but if you are, you're not saying it very well. Timmy boy, I gotta ask you, did you go to Carl Baugh's effective word salad class? That's what it sounds like to me. You know, why don't you take a deep breath, figure out what you want to say, and then spit it out? At any rate, you do know that things like oceanic crust and mountains and so on and so forth are made from more than just magmatic rock, right? There is rock that is not magmatic, just so you know. Also, if I'm understanding you right, and I really don't know whether I am, because you really suck at getting your ideas across. But if I'm understanding you right, you're saying this happened all throughout the earth, which cannot be the case. You're also saying that this all happened at the same time, which we know is not the case, because we know rocks are different ages. We know that oceanic crust is different ages. We know that there are different kinds of rocks. I mean, we know so much that this is beyond ludicrous. And the most ludicrous thing about this that you want us to buy is this all happened 4,400 years ago, when we know rock is more than 4,400 years old.
So I think there was a piece of land near Mount Ararat, in the mountains of Ararat, that rose up from below, and I actually have a spot, I think, where that might have actually occurred.
Okay, that's cool.
It's a little different than some people, but that's, the timing of things has to be, you have to reach the high point of the flood. So to me, my research is showing that's about near what's called the Cretaceous system, the KPG boundary, and that's one of the big sequence boundaries.
I don't think anybody needs me to point out the KT boundary, but just in case you do, here it is. Anyway, I got a few questions for you, Timmy boy. First of all, you say that the KT boundary was because of the flood, and the flood was global. Okay. But if there was a global flood that laid down the KT boundary, then it is only logical to deduce that all strata below the KT boundary would be the same, but it's not. And before you come back with a half-assed comment about the KT boundary is global, of course the KT boundary is global, because the comet that killed the dinosaurs laid down an iridium layer that was global in its reach. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that if the world was all the same before this supposed worldwide flood, then there should only be one single stratum below the KT boundary, and that's not what we see. We see different strata with different ecosystems. And by the way, those different ecosystems have different plants and animals. Very strange, especially considering the fact that these animal fossils are laid down by time period. Yeah, that's right. You people never even tried to answer why trilobites aren't found with rabbits. Okay, so I don't know too much about the KT boundary, except that it's made of iridium and it's from the comet that killed the dinosaurs, the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Young Earth creationists, not 4,400 years. So, because I'm not even going to pretend to be an expert in what I'm not, even though sometimes I do give synopses, I am going to get a clip from YouTube to tell you about the KT boundary.
The impact released 6 million times more energy than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. It set off a trail of destruction that would end with the death of the dinosaurs.
At the moment it started to contact the surface of the Earth, its trailing edge was still up there at 35,000 feet. That's the altitude that jetliners are flying. So we're really talking a massive object slamming into the Earth.
The initial plume of superheated gases and debris incinerated virtually all life in the impact zone. Nothing within a 1,000-mile radius stood a chance.
I couldn't fit the whole chronostratigraphy on here, so I clipped out the important section and I blew it up. And so, yeah, the KT boundary is about 65 million years old. And for you young earthers out there, I'm going to tell you how we know that. But first, what is the KT boundary? Well, it is the boundary between the Cretaceous and the Tertiary period, and it is a layer of iridium that comes from meteorites, and we know that because iridium is not usually found on Earth. So we know that a meteorite slammed into Earth, and we know where this took place, off the coast of Mexico. This was the event that killed the dinosaurs, a meteorite from space. It was not a worldwide flood. And how do we know this? Well, we know this because the KT boundary separates the dinosaurs from the mammals. Now, before anybody misinterprets what I am saying, no, I am not saying that there were no mammals before the KT boundary. There were. But the mammals were very small, and the dinosaurs ruled the earth. After the KT boundary, we see a distinct shift from dinosaur fossils to mammal fossils. And this is because mammals were small enough basically to burrow underground to live out the enormous changes which were occurring on Earth during this time. Not only that, but the mammals were better able to adapt to the changing conditions of this period in time than the dinosaurs were.
And I'm here because I came to see the KPG boundary, the extinction event 66 million years ago that ended the reign of dinosaurs and began what would become the age of mammals. And you can see it in the state park if you go back along a trail to here. I've climbed.
I realize that some young earthers may be scratching their heads wondering what on earth the KPG boundary is. It's the same thing as KT boundary. They're interchangeable terms. KPG boundary is just an updated term for the KT boundary.
Right here is the boundary between the Cretaceous period below and the Paleogene period above. So this is the Mesozoic era, this is the Cenozoic era, age of mammals, age of dinosaurs. And this boundary separates them. This is the fallout from the impact of an asteroid that struck the Earth 66 million years ago.
First, I would like to address why my pictures are different. The pictures are from different sites. This boundary's from all over the world. And for my young earther friends, no, this is not from a worldwide flood. This is from a worldwide catastrophe, which doesn't have to be a flood. In fact, a worldwide flood is impossible. However, for some reason, young earth creationists have this thing that a worldwide catastrophe can only be a worldwide flood and not other catastrophe. So, how do we know that the KT boundary is 65 to 66 million years old? By the way, I did find out that the age of the boundary has been updated to 66 million years old. And no, young earthers, just because science changes its mind does not mean that science is wrong. In fact, science is very strong because science changes its mind with the facts, unlike religion. Let's go on. Scientists at the University of California at Berkeley have been able to pinpoint the age of the KT boundary more precisely by using the argon-argon method. This method is generally superior because it does not suffer from the drawback of potassium argon dating that creationists love to bitch about. In other words, the excess argon that may or may not be in the sample, because the argon-argon method measures potassium by way of argon by creating argon-39 from potassium-39 by way of a nuclear reactor by bombarding potassium with a neutron, therefore bypassing the excess argon problem that creationists bitch about for some reason. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's the simplest I can make it. You might want to look on YouTube for videos that break it down if you want that. At any rate, and this is a pet peeve of mine, young earth creationists never bothered to tell their audience that these dating methods overlap to some degree and they have cross confirmation, which would be a little bit weird if they weren't accurate to the extent that we know they can be. And science does put a plus minus number on the end to say this is the degree of accuracy which for some reason creationists don't tell their audience. Congratulations for sticking with me through this shit show of lying bastards. Actually, I would say Tim is a lying bastard. Not so sure about Eric. I'm more inclined to go softer on Eric. And the only reason I'm inclined to go softer on Eric is because, honestly, I have a soft spot in my heart for him because he had a really sick bastard of a dad and he got beat. So, yeah. Still, Eric, you are a grown ass dude. So, you should be able to do your own research by now. And you know what? Libraries do have, like, places you can go that can teach you. And when I say research, I mean, like, real research, as in real academic journals, not the echo chambers that are Institute for Creation Research, Answers in Genesis, and all that other bullshit. At any rate, that's all I've got for today in way of calling out the bullshit of these creationists. If you like this, please like and subscribe. If you can, throw a little bit of money my way. You can become a member of my channel for as low as 99 cents a month. That gets you these debunks at least one day, usually 2 days early, and also gives you custom emojis. Or if you want to do a one time, you can do my PayPal.